I decided to marry you, even though you're plain, because I thought you were the daughter of a rich company president with money. But a woman who earns only $7 an hour? I don't need that anymore. Get out, you low intelligence wife.
I'm sick of having a woman like you pretending to be a mother. We don't need a low-income old lady. Please leave. While grinning, they said these things as they looked at me. As if it was decided without allowing any objection, my belongings had already been packed into cardboard boxes and garbage bags placed beside them. I had a bunch of stuff I wanted to say, but I just didn't have the energy to argue. So, you want me to divorce you and leave this house, right?
That's right. I didn't hate that you understood things quickly.
Once this woman leaves, Dad can finally be happy. I see. Understood. But you will surely regret this. Being silent was not in my nature after being told so much. The two of them will surely regret making me leave this house. My name is Samantha Irving. I'm a 50-year-old office worker. I've been working in my father's company, raising my only daughter, Candace, and doing household chores for over a decade. I married Howard 10 years ago. I met him through work. He was a sales representative at a client company, and I always thought he was easy to talk to. I didn't think he was my type, but Howard's upbeat attitude and constant smiles secretly drew me in. Then Howard confessed his feelings to me, and we started dating. At first I was scared, thinking I wasn't good enough for him, but he said, "Your shy personality and homeliness are wonderful." Our relationship was going smoothly, and we were having a good time. But then Howard dropped a bombshell.
Actually, I have a daughter who's 10 years old.
He confessed this half a year into our relationship when he proposed to me. What? The news that Howard had a child was completely unexpected. I knew he was divorced before we started dating, but I had no idea he had a child. I was overjoyed when Howard proposed, but honestly I was more confused. However, Howard, who would take me to nice restaurants and places with beautiful night views, always encouraged me with positive words. I thought life with him would be fun, and so I also wanted to marry him.
Don't marry a divorced man with a child. It's bound to make you suffer.
I had to deal with my strict dad's disapproval, but Howard promised.
I will definitely make you happy.
Believing he would overcome any difficulty together, I went against my parents' wishes and married him. But I want to tell my past self to listen to my parents. Otherwise, I would end up seeing hell. When we were getting married, I worried whether I could get along with Howard's child, Candace, and whether I, who had never raised a child, could be a good mother. The first day I met Candace. Nice to meet you, I'm Samantha. Nice to meet you, I'm Candace. Come in quickly. Saying so, she greeted me with a smile, grabbed my arm, and led me into the living room. You're the daughter of a company CEO, right? And a career woman? That's so cool. Her pure eyes sparkled, and I was touched. She seemed like such a good kid. That day I cooked a meal for her and made an extra effort to make it kid-friendly. Candace stuffed her mouth with food and said, "Delicious!" many times. I remember feeling very happy. The food you make, Samantha, is so delicious. It's totally different from Dad's cooking. Being able to eat this kind of meal every day is the best, Candace said, surprisingly accepting her father's remarriage quite easily.
What do you mean, Candace? The food I make is delicious too, right?
It's always the same dishes and they're bland. Samantha's cooking is much tastier. They joked around, saying,
Dad's going to cry,
while playfully teasing each other. I felt they were a close-knit family. Now let's talk about our household finances. My husband is an ordinary office worker at a small to mid-sized company. On the other hand, even though I am the daughter of a company CEO, I've worked at my father's company for many years, holding a position and earning a decent income. Therefore, our household mainly relies on my salary for living expenses. The agreement was that my husband would actively participate in housework and childcare in return. I have never had any complaints about this. Whoever can earn more should, which is our family's style. That's why I also started by replacing all the furniture and appliances I have been using alone with family-friendly ones, to quickly become part of the family and to create an environment where Candace could live comfortably, even if just a little. The same goes for where we live. I lived in a condo owned by my father's company during my single years, but it was too spacious for one person, so we decided that the two of them would move into my condo. Thus, a new life for the three of us, Samantha, Howard, and Candace, began. The first time Candace came to my condo, she ran around the house excitedly, saying, "It's so big! Amazing!" Seeing her like that, I vowed in my heart to work hard at parenting in my job so that this child could grow up to be a splendid adult. Living together as a trio was stress-free, peaceful, and enjoyable. Blood relation didn't matter. We three were becoming a real family, looking forward to our lives together. However, reality was not so sweet. When Candace entered middle school, her attitude towards me changed. Candace joined the badminton club in middle school. It was a club passionate about practice, so she spent her days at school and evenings to nights at club activities, gradually spending less time at home. On days where there was no club activity, she would come home from school, throw her bag on the sofa, and just play with her smartphone. This is when Candace and I started to become more distant. Even when I tried to talk to her, she wouldn't even look at me, let alone nod. When I discussed Candace's attitude with my husband, he said,
"She's just in her rebellious phase because she's in middle school. Don't worry about it."
I thought it would settle down after a while. However, no matter how long I waited, her attitude showed no sign of changing. I kept trying to talk to Candace, but she wasn't very responsive, sometimes sighing deeply and saying, "What? Don't talk to me." She completely rejected me. Even when we watched TV together in the living room, Candace would only talk to Howard. It was as if she didn't hear anything I said. But then, when she needed something like, "Hey, I need this for club activities tomorrow, can you wash it?" she would talk to me. Other times, I was like air to her. However, I tried to meet Candace's demands as much as possible, not wanting our distance to widen any further. But I also work, and not in a company where weekends are guaranteed off. It's shift work, and even on my days off, I'm busy with work. There are times when I have to do work from home on weekends because my job is pretty demanding. My job isn't the worst, and I'm happy to have a job, but when things get extra busy, there are times I can't keep up with Candace's requests. When I'm trying to cook dinner after coming back from work, and she says, "I want the cake sold in front of the station," or, "I don't like the side dish, make hamburgers instead," I often have no choice but to refuse. Each time I refuse, Candace visibly shows her displeasure and says, "Tch, useless. If you're mother, you should at least do that much." She then storms off to her room. Lately, "A mother who would do at least this much?" has become her catchphrase. I've said it many times, but while legally I am Candace's mother, she and I are not related by blood. I've always tried my best to be recognized by Candace as her mother, yet I still feel she hasn't fully accepted me in that role. Each time Candace speaks to me in that manner, I blame myself for not being able to meet her demands, leading to feelings of self-loathing. The same goes for my relationship with Howard. When we first met, he was very affectionate and constantly showed me his charming smile. However, it seems like he might be the type who loses interest once he's secured his catch, because about a year into our marriage, his attitude towards me cooled significantly. The warm atmosphere of a loving couple was gone, replaced by the feeling that we were just roommates. So I even tried asking my husband, "How about we go on a date, just the two of us, for old time's sake?" But he rejected the idea, saying,
"What? A date? We have a daughter named Candace, so don't say creepy stuff like going on a date. What would Candace think?"
I wanted to remind him that he had a child when we first met, and we still went on dates, but I knew bringing that up would only anger him more. Above all, what troubled me the most was how recklessly Howard and Candace spent money. I earn a pretty good salary since I work at my father's company and hold a position there. Yet because of Howard and Candace's spending, we hardly have any savings left. I've warned them numerous times, but they never tried to change their spending habits. Instead, they started calling me stingy and saying she's that kind of terrible woman. So I wasn't exactly living the happy married life I could brag about. Having gotten married for the first time after turning 40, I tried to convince myself that this was just what marriage was like. Time flew by, and before I knew it, I was 50 years old. Candace is now 20 and has entered the world of adulthood. It should have been a joyful occasion, my daughter turning 20. However, I couldn't genuinely feel happy. I remembered the day we first met thinking, I'll do my best to raise her so she can become a respectable adult. I took a day off for her celebration, prepared the dress Candace wanted, and booked a hairdressing appointment. I was all set to send off and pick up my daughter and accompany her to the celebration. After her hair and makeup were done and seeing Candace looking so glamorous, I couldn't help but smile. It really suits you. You've become such a beautiful woman.
Oh, Candace, you look great. That's my daughter, the most beautiful one.
Candace only smiled at Howard, saying, Thank you, Dad. But she completely ignored my compliment. Howard was getting ready in a suit to head to the party venue, and I also dressed up, intending to go to the party with Candace and Howard. However, Candace sharply told me, What? Why is the old lady trying to come? You absolutely must not come to the party, okay? She referred to me as the old lady and hurled insults. But I just thought since my daughter is dressed up so beautifully, I'd like to go together. Even though I was insulted, I tried not to care and conveyed my feelings with a forced smile, but it seemed to have the opposite effect. Stop it! You're not my real mother. Don't call me your daughter anymore. Just make sure you absolutely don't come. I don't want my friends to think my mom is such a boring woman. She shooed me away with her hands. Is this what being a respectable adult looks like? Not her real mother, huh? Did I make a mistake in how I raised her? I sighed deeply. In the end, Howard and Candace left me behind and went without me. With no choice left, I decided to spend the day leisurely at home. I had an unexpected day off and nothing planned, so I just decided to go to work. It made me realize just how much of a workaholic I am. After finishing work reasonably early and returning home, I found Howard sitting on the sofa with a frown, arms crossed, signaling something was amiss. What's wrong?
Why didn't you tell me?
What? What are you talking about?
Your father's company is on the brink of bankruptcy, isn't it? I heard they're significantly scaling down operations in the U.S.
It seemed he had heard some rumors somewhere, though Howard's company no longer had any dealings with my father's company. On the brink of bankruptcy? That doesn't sound quite right, but I am aware they're scaling down operations in the U.S. I wanted to discuss this with you after the party was over.
Huh? You wanted to talk about it? What about the salary? What's going to happen?
It seemed Howard was more concerned about my salary than the company itself. My salary might decrease until things settle down, I guess.
What? You've got to be joking. Candace is going to university soon, right? How are we going to afford the tuition?
I've got the tuition covered. Besides, I tried to explain the situation at my father's company and why my salary was going to decrease, but my husband wouldn't listen.
Enough already. You can't earn money and you can't even get along with our daughter. You're truly a failure as a mother.
When my husband called me a bad mom and said I'm failing, it really hurt. And it's kind of true that I'm making less money now and my daughter and I aren't getting along so well. His words really got to me.
I need to reconsider our future together.
With that, he slammed the door loudly as he left the house. I feel the same way about wanting to reconsider our future together. I had planned to talk things through after Candace's 20th celebration party. Why does nothing ever go as planned? The next day was busier than usual at work, so I decided to work a little overtime before going home. Howard used to say at the beginning of our marriage,
The one who earns more should earn, and the one who gets home early should cook.
But that promise had long been broken. Expecting that there wouldn't be dinner ready at home anyway, I decided to just buy something from the store. When I got home, I saw Howard and Candace smirking. Usually when I get home, they are either watching TV or having holed up in their rooms, so their behavior was clearly unusual. It was as if they were waiting for me to come home, but their reaction didn't seem welcoming. I had a bad feeling about this. My bad premonitions always turn out to be true, and today was no exception.
Finally back, huh? You're late.
Really so late. We were tired of waiting. What? Well, I've been a bit busier lately because of new work. But what's going on with you two?
Here, take this.
He then threw a large bag at me. Open it and see. This is... When I opened the bag, it obviously didn't contain any presents. Inside were my clothes and cosmetics, heavy with weight. What is this about? I couldn't comprehend what was happening, and my thoughts couldn't catch up. Then my daughter said, "Come here," and led me to a room in the back of the living room. When she opened the door, I saw all of my belongings packed in cardboard boxes and trash bags. "Mom, you have too much stuff." It was so hard to pack it all.
I even took a day off work to pack it all. I'm really tired.
Well done, Dad. Seeing the two of them laughing together, I finally understood their intention. Are you telling me to leave?
That's right. Candace and I have been talking about it for a while.
Right. Your company is really in trouble, isn't it? Your salary is decreasing too, right? No use hiding it. Dad told me everything.
Well,
It's really the end of you in this house, Mom.
That's right. Your role here is completely over. We don't need someone who can't make money.
Without giving me a chance to speak, my daughter and husband seemed intent on blaming me 2 against 1. As they talked at me like a machine gun, I couldn't find an opening to interject and could only listen in silence. As I remained silent, they seemed to forget I was there and began to spill their true feelings one after another.
I married you because you said you were the daughter of a company CEO, but you turned out to be such a disappointment for being so dull and boring.
It's true, isn't it? At first I thought I'd get to live in a fancy condo and become a rich kid by accepting such a boring mom, but then I got scolded for spending too much money. And with this appearance, I'm too embarrassed to tell my friends that someone like this is my mom.
What are both of you talking about?
I managed to interject with a faint voice into their conversation. However, this only seemed to fuel their fervor.
I can say it now. I married you for childcare assistance and money.
What? I couldn't believe my ears.
My ex-wife was terrible at childcare. She couldn't earn as a stay-at-home mom and got postpartum depression right after having the kid. That's why my first marriage failed. I cared about Candace, so I took her with me, but as a mere office worker working at a small to mid-sized company, I thought it impossible to raise a daughter on my own. I searched for a rich lady who I could trust and who wasn't too flashy, a simple woman. Then I found the perfect candidate. You.
You're lying. I went against my parents' wishes to marry you.
You're such an idiot. You blush just because someone says they like you. You were so easy to win over, even though I did you the favor of marrying you.
That's awful.
What's truly awful is the idea of the company going under. I've seen your recent payslips. You're earning about $7 per hour, aren't you? It's the worst. Now that Candace has grown up, we don't need a low-intelligence wife earning $7 per hour in this house.
My hourly wage is $7? What is he talking about? I couldn't understand at all. As I was lost in thought and remained silent, my daughter followed up on her father's lead, saying, "I'm so sick of having a woman like you pretend to be my mother. We don't need a low-income old lady. Please leave." Their cruel words broke my heart. So they had been thinking this all along. I hadn't noticed anything until now. I had a lot I wanted to say, but I no longer had the energy to speak. "So you want me to divorce you and leave this house, right?"
That's right. I've always liked that you're quick to understand.
It's really sad for Dad. He's been hurt and deceived by this woman so much. Now, Dad can finally be happy.
Why does my daughter hate me so much? I don't remember doing anything to deserve such hate from my husband or daughter. Yet my daughter seems to hate me deeply, glaring at me with a look that could kill. Seeing my daughter like this, my husband smirked with satisfaction. Anger welled up inside me against him. After being treated like this, I couldn't just stay silent. I was sure that both of them would regret making me leave this house. I immediately started preparing to leave. Oh? So you're really going to leave? It looks like you finally realized you're a burden to this house. It took long enough.
While saying this, my husband began to carry my luggage to the entrance. Seeing him do this, my daughter oddly sympathized with him, saying, "Dad is such a nice person for helping carry the luggage."
I'll send the rest of your belongings by cash on delivery later. But remember, if you don't clear out your stuff from our house within a week, I'm going to dispose of it all, just so you know.
suddenly demanding I leave and setting a deadline for moving out my belongings, and then threatening to dispose of them if I don't comply? How unreasonable can he be? I understand, but let me say this last thing. You will surely regret this. Be prepared. I said this to my husband with the loudest voice I had ever used in my life. He laughed, saying,
Regret? As if that would ever happen.
But I ignored his words and left the house. That day I decided to stay in a company-owned apartment. I planned to live here until I found a new place. I could have had my belongings sent here by cash on delivery, but I didn't want my daughter and husband to know my address, so I hired movers to transport my things while they were out. Since we were both working, we decided to split our savings in half between the two of us. Howard has a bit of spending recklessly, so he's never been able to save any money. Inevitably, this meant that a lot of the money I had saved ended up in Howard's hands, but those were the rules, so I had to follow them. In the end, I handed over a significant sum of $100,000. Well, I hope he uses that money for Candace's college expenses. That was the intention anyway, and so our divorce was finalized. Until the divorce, my heart was in tatters, but after it was finalized, I surprisingly felt more at ease and happy. My feelings were quite clear. It just shows how twisted our married life had been. 2 months after the divorce was finalized, I received a call from my ex-husband. I hesitated to answer, guessing what it might be about, but decided to hear him out, partly out of curiosity about his current predicament.
Hey, what's the meaning of this?
From his first words, my ex-husband sounded quite flustered. What's wrong? I pretty much knew what it was about, but played along.
I've been told to leave this house by tomorrow. Why? It's our condo, isn't it?
Of course, you have to leave. It's a condo owned by my company. It should be obvious that my ex-husband and his family can't live there post-divorce. Anyone would understand that with a bit of thought.
But I don't have anywhere to go on such short notice. Can you ask your father to let me and Candace stay here like before?
What are you talking about? 2 months ago, you didn't care where I would go when you kicked me out suddenly. Who was that who didn't care at all?
About that, I'm sorry. Please, can you help us out?
There's nothing I can do. Is that all? I'm hanging up. No cheap apology can make me forgive what happened that day. It seems my ex-husband still underestimates me even after our divorce. As I was about to hang up, he begged me to wait. What? Is there something else?
I don't understand something. Recently, it's been decided that a very tall condo will be built near our house. The location is good, and the brochure says it has great facilities and space. When I looked it up, I found out it's owned by your company. How is that possible? I thought your company was on the brink of bankruptcy. There shouldn't be a budget for such an amazing condo.
My company started a new venture 2 years ago. It's been quite successful, and there's never been a risk of bankruptcy. Now it's grown into a corporation with an annual turnover of $30 million, so buying that condo was easy.
What? But I thought your company in the US was gone, and your salary has decreased.
The company in the US hasn't gone anywhere. It's smaller, but it still exists. We're expanding our business overseas because it's more lucrative than in the US. My salary was only reduced during the transition period. It's an incentive system, and my father made sure other employees' salaries didn't decrease. Being family, I told them it was okay to cut my salary temporarily. After all, my base salary was sufficient, and I had a big new project coming up.
Why didn't you explain such an important thing to me?
I tried to, but you never gave me a chance to explain. Besides, everyone knows my father's company is booming. A little research would have shown you that. You jumped to conclusions.
But still...
And about that big project, it means I'm becoming the CEO of my father's company.
The CEO? You?
Overwhelmed by surprise, my ex-husband raised his voice so loudly I had to pull the phone away from my ear, annoyed by the noise. Yes, that's right. But becoming the CEO means I'll be living in England for a while. Our business is now more focused overseas, and it's inconvenient to continue in the US. But I couldn't make that decision easily because you and Candace were here. I was planning to discuss it with both of you after Candace's 20th celebration. After that, my ex-husband became silent, unable to respond. Hello? Are you listening? Just so you know, after you guys abandoned me, I gladly accepted the offer to become the president. I've already set the date for my move to England, and soon I'll be the president of a company with an annual revenue of $30 million.
That's ridiculous. I can't believe it. When we divided our assets, you only got $100,000. Sure, it's a significant amount, but nowhere near $30 million. People that are rich aren't just walking around everywhere.
Companies exceeding $30 million in annual revenue are quite rare, but the scale changes when you're talking about global operations. Our company has never been confined to the US alone. It's because we've been able to expand our business overseas that we've managed to grow this big. I had all my savings managed under my father's name because you and Candace were just too reckless with money. Since it wasn't accumulating much anyway, I decided it was best to entrust the majority of my salary to my dad. I knew he would succeed in any new venture or investment he undertook, which gave me peace of mind.
But I saw a payslip for a $7 per hour salary. What was that about?
Oh, you mentioned that. I thought about it afterward, wondering what you could have been referring to. Then it hit me. You probably saw a payslip for one of our part-time cleaning staff. It's from years ago, though. There's been concern in the company lately that the wages for our part-time workers might be too low, so I was reviewing past wages. You likely saw an old payslip. Nowadays, with the minimum wage exceeding $10 everywhere, it's obvious that $7 wouldn't make sense. I couldn't help but laugh. If he had properly looked at the payslip, he would have noticed the name and date were different. Howard must have been desperately searching for a weakness in me. That he happened upon that particular payslip is something even a fool would realize after a bit of thought.
I can't believe it. I let a woman worth $30 million slip through my fingers.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm going to hang up now, and please pass my regards to Candace. With that, I hung up on my ex-husband. In the days that followed, Howard repeatedly messaged and called me, pleading for reconsideration, but I ignored all his attempts. Eventually, due to his persistence, I blocked him the day before. 3 months have passed since then. I now reside in England. Work keeps me extremely busy without much time for breaks, but the absence of personal troubles make it easier for me to focus on my job without stress, regardless of the workload. Candace has called a few times since. Mom, I'm really sorry. Ever since I started middle school, my dad has been talking trash about you, saying you're a cheater and that you made fun of me. I believed everything he said and blamed you for it. I'm sorry for everything I've said up till now. While Candace seemed genuinely remorseful, the terrible way she had treated me was hard to forgive, even if it was influenced by her father. If it was just what your father said, I'd like to say it's okay, but you also played a part in this. You won't forgive me even though I'm apologizing? You're my mother, right? And you're rich, right? Please, I got used to living with you and I can't lower my standard of living now. I'll go anywhere, even England. Candace argues that while I was around, we were somewhat wealthy and she lived without wanting for anything. However, since I left, they were evicted from the condo, and now she and her father are living in a cheap, cramped rental, and she feels this lifestyle is at its limit. But the phrase, "you aren't my mother," as she used is one that has pained me deeply in the past. Realizing that her current apology is mere superficial and that she doesn't truly believe she's at fault, I've come to understand that I can no longer support Candace in the way I once might have. If this had been a sincere apology, I wouldn't have hesitated to forgive her. That's just what parents do. In the end, we just want to spoil our kids, but things are going to be different this time. Candace has ridiculed me for so long that it's impossible for her to suddenly become honest and approach me properly. She has always been a child with high pride. Given this, I've decided it's time to stop acting as her mother. You said, "You aren't my mother," but you also told me not to act like one. So I stopped. I'm sorry, but you're an adult now. It's time for you to live on your own. Good luck. Wait, are you serious? Are you abandoning your daughter? At this rate, I won't be able to go to college and my first paycheck will all go to rent. You abandoned me first, didn't you? Besides, I gave your father $100,000. You don't have to struggle financially right now. That money. Dad bought a car and I bought a designer bag, so there's hardly any left. Candace said this awkwardly, seemingly uncomfortable with the situation. It seems my ex-husband and daughter couldn't stop their lavish spending all of a sudden, having lived off my salary so comfortably before. But that's not my concern anymore. I don't want to hear it. I've made my decision. You'll have to figure it out on your own. Goodbye. Saying so, I ended the call. Even so, I have no intention of blocking my daughter. No matter what, she has been a part of my life for over a decade. If she ever ends up in some serious trouble and is willing to admit she was wrong and truly sorry, I might be open to giving her a hand once more. But that seems like it will be a story for another day. Life in England is busy and not always easy, but I find myself content. Perhaps one day I'll plan a trip to the US for my employees living in England. With thoughts like these, I spend another peaceful day alone.